Well, damn it, it happened. Phillies sweep the Cardinals in a best of 3. We all we all felt like it was going to happen. We all knew it was going to happen. It had to happen. First time in 11 years. And the Phillies are headed to the NLDS. And not only that, talking 2-5, headed to the NLDS. Sean and I are going to be present for the game. We're going to be setting up a big pregame live show, tailgate live show. Going to be a great time. Definitely want to follow us on social media to get in on all of the information regarding that. Phone line is open. You want to call in, tell us what you thought about the game, tell us your thoughts about the NLDS, just talk some birds. You just call right in. You see the number right there. You call in, you're on the show. And yeah, we're just going to talk a little Phils and Nola. What a performance. First time in the postseason, and man, did he pitch a gem. Gosh, 6 2/3, really could have gone a full 7. I was kind of just hoping that they would really send him in for that 7th. If you're looking at his velocity and his spin rate, it was right there, the same it's been pretty much all game. I get you bringing the righty to face the righty, but I kind of would have liked to see Nola get the full 7 there, but who cares? They got the win, and he had a masterful performance. September, Nola, goodbye. We are in October. We're in red October, baby. Let's go. Got some comments coming in. Ken, great pitching. MVP has to be Bowman that game. Has to be. I mean, with his defensive performance and then the double that ended up scoring the go, or I mean not the go ahead, just a little bit of an insurance run. Has to be him. Could have been Harper. Should have been Harper. I don't really care about the fact that they had so many or that he was real aggressive there and was called out. He was safe. All right, we got Ryan calling in. What is going on, Ryan? Thank you for checking in, man. Phil's headed to the NLDS. Let's go.
Waited 11 years for this, baby.
Oh,
Waited 11 years for this.
Here? Don't know why it is not coming through for me. Hold on 1 second there. I would imagine you are calling, but it is not give me audio. Hold on, let me hang up for just a second, and I'll call you right back. Don't know what was going on there. I think you all could hear him, but for whatever reason, it was not allowing me to hear him. Let me go grab a cable real quick. Have fun looking at my wall for just a second. All right, let's see if we can get this figured out. We're going to go just hardwire it and see what we can do there. But yeah, hold on 1 second. We're running some technical difficulties while trying to get the call line working. Let me grab my headphones here, and maybe it'll work through the headphones. Well, of course, my headphones are completely missing at the moment. I'm sure in a second, once the show is over or something, they're going to pop right up. In the meantime, let's just talk some Phils. Like we said, punched their ticket, headed to the NLDS. I'm going to be at the game. We are got tickets for Game 3 of the NLDS. Got them a while back. So Sean and I are going to be there. Like I said, setting up a tailgate live show. So anybody that's going to be at the game definitely would come on over, hop on in, check out that. But man, what a performance! Like I said, Nola 6 2/3. Then you got Sir Anthony coming in there. A lot of people were a little bit worried about him. He was dealing. Umpires, while they tried and tried their hardest to take that game away from us, didn't happen. Didn't happen. I was touching on it right before Ryan called, and I couldn't hear him. I think you guys could, but without my headphones, for some reason, can't find him. So I couldn't hear him. But man, yeah, that blown call on that Harper slide. What? Why do you have a review center if you're going to make calls like that? I don't understand why you have a review center if you can't make a very simple call. Every angle that they showed, he was safe. So it's just very confusing on that. Again, doesn't matter. Turned out to be a terrible inning on base running. With that, with the slide in second, that was ruled out when he was safe. And then with that, getting to a rundown, hoping JT scores, but they were completely ready for that. Obviously, hindsight's 2020 when they completely gave up second base there. Should have just taken second and let Marsh have the opportunity to get the RBI there. You get in the rundown. JT takes a little bit too long to get going. End up just getting out, like getting 3 outs in the inning without any kind of runs on that. Really should have capitalized there. But Eflin comes in and he makes you sweat for it. He really made you sweat for it, and it kind of makes you think: is he the closer for the rest of the playoffs? Because both times he's come in here, he's gotten the save, but both times he's given up multiple hits. He's walked some. It's difficult. It's difficult to say. I mean, who really would be your closer? Sir Anthony was definitely encouraging. We saw out of him. Velocity is right there in the hundreds, at 100, where we saw him during his peak run. Command still wasn't great, but he hasn't had a whole lot of work in recent games. So can't, maybe it's just a little bit of rust that's built up on him. But Sir Anthony, we all know the level that he's pitched at previously. So he certainly could, if he finds his stuff again, fall right back into that closer role. It's going to be a tough task. Look, the Braves throughout the season were just about 500 with them. I can look up their official record with them this season, but I know we're right around 500 with them. We've actually played pretty well in Atlanta against them. So who knows? Hop in, steal a game out of Atlanta, bring it back to Philly. I would love to see them. Love to see them win the series and take it to the championship series in Philadelphia. That'd be a sight. But man, can't get over this. I'm shaking. 11 years, 11-year playoff drought ended, and we bring it right back with a sweep of none other than the Cardinals, the last team that we faced in the playoffs. You absolutely love to see it. Give me about 10 seconds. I'm going to try and look one more spot for those headphones so we can open up the call line, because for some reason it is not working without them. So give me about 10, 15 seconds. I'm going to look right over here real quick, and then I'll be right back to take any more of your questions that you can throw up in the comments or anything. Nope, of course it is missing right when I need it most. So that works out just wonderfully. I actually think I know where the headphones are, so give me one last second to go run over and look. And if it's not there, I won't even look anymore. Give me about 30 seconds. I think I actually remember where they're at. Alrighty, and we got them. Let me plug them in. All right, we got them. So, Ryan, why don't you go ahead and give me a call back whenever you are ready? If you're still tuning in, we can talk a little birds here, but we got it all set up. Make sure we're still all connected. And we are. So, you know what? I will just call you right back. Oh, here you are. Sorry about that, Ryan. Sorry for the delay there. Forgot that you need the headphones when I go in here. But man, Phil's sweep the Cards. Now we just need the Eagles to win, but we'll talk a little birds tomorrow. We're talking some fightins. The fightins. You there, bud? Oh, I heard you for a second. Oh,
can you hear me?
I can hear you now. There you are.
Can you talk about this weekend? Yeah,
can you hear me? There we go.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we're good.
Oh yeah, we're wonderful. Talking some. Anybody in the comments, just comment if Ken, if you're still tuned in, just comment to make sure that you all can hear him. I'm almost positive that it's coming through wonderfully, but I just want to make sure. Anyway, Ryan, MVP of the game. Ken's checking in saying that it's got to be Bohm. I'm probably agreeing with him. Could have been Harper if it wasn't for a terrible call by New York. Who you got there?
Well, the MVP of the game is obvious, and it's not anybody that plays, in the field regularly. It's Aaron Nola tonight.
Actually, you're 100% on. Postseason Nola was masterful.
Yeah, Nola, spoke to the gods, sat next to Doc Halladay last night, and came out and pitched just like we needed him to today because he was masterful. Everything worked, and as you alluded to on Twitter, all of his pitches look the same the first 20 or 30 feet. That's how you know that he's on. If everything's coming out of his hand the same, it's going to be tough to pick up for hitters, and he looked masterful tonight.
No, I mean, he was tunneling beautifully. And look, the only pitch that you might be able to pick up earlier out of the hand is that curveball. But when you're sitting any other pitch, it just seems so different right there. You're seeing the changeup, the fastball, and the cutter almost all identical out of the hand for the first 30 feet or so. And then when that curveball is able to come over for a strike, good luck. When he's really on with his curveball, it looks like it has 40 inches of break. I mean, throwing it front door to those righties is nasty.
The thing with his curveball is it's on when it doesn't start up. If it comes out of his hand and starts up, it's going to hang. And today it did not do that. It started in the middle of the plate and immediately broke down and away, or he started it off the plate and it became a strike. Those are the two things you got to look at with breaking balls. They can't always be in the zone. It has to be either start in the zone and work its way out, or start its way out and work its way in. It did whatever Aaron Nola wanted it to do tonight. So he was just masterful. He's the MVP.
Yeah, no, and I was touching on right before I was able to get you on the line here. Eflin with his two closes the past two games. Look, it's gotten the job done, but both games he has made it really tough on himself. Do you think that he's the closer moving forward in the NLDS? Do you think with Sir Anthony having his velocity right where it was at during the peak of the season, and just maybe having a little bit of command issues that they might try him back in there? How do you feel they're going to go with closing in the NLDS?
I feel like with the Phillies, the way that this bullpen is structured, they can be very flexible with who they have closing. So Eflin obviously gets the first crack at closing because he and Alvarado together were in fact the best two relief pitchers finishing the season by a substantial margin. So I understand the want to have him close. And yes, his outings have been a little shaky. So you can be a little flexible with it. I would give Sir Anthony his crack. I personally am hesitant about it. I think we've seen Sir Anthony close in the past and it hasn't worked out all too well. And some guys just aren't built to be closers, and that's fine. But I think that he has more than deserved a shot with the way that he's pitched this year. And you can even go to Robertson or Alvarado. I mean, Robertson has closed some seriously big games in his career, you know, as up and down as he's been as a Philly. He's been in the playoffs. He's been in the World Series. He's done this a time or two. He's kind of the wily vet in that bullpen. So there's some flexibility based on matchups with the Phillies bullpen. It could get real scary for opposing teams.
No, it really could. And look, I don't think that Brad Hand is really talked about enough. If you look at his numbers, like he missed some time with a late injury, but he was always a relatively reliable one inning guy that I never thought they gave him enough time. And obviously he was brought up, you know, from the IL and was brought onto this playoff roster and everything. And I would have hoped that we would have had a little bit bigger of a lead so we could have gotten him a little postseason experience with the team here before we really need to possibly use him in the NLDS. But in a best of five series, you're not just going to see Robertson, Alvarado, and Eflin and Sir Anthony, uh, the four relievers that we saw in this series. You're going to see him have to dig in a little bit deeper because look, you know, you're going to be going into that third starter, and everybody knows I like Ranger a fair amount. I think he's having a bit of a rougher year. Obviously, last year he was very good. In my preseason prediction, had him as the Phillies' top pitcher, and that didn't tune in. But you know, you're going to see him if he gets roughed around a little bit early. You're really going to have to rely on some of these guys, and then if they come in with a clean inning, the nice thing is you always can go to Syndergaard because he can go longer. He can be your stretch guy if they do have to have him hop in after a couple innings. But I know at least in the regular season, one of his stipulations to go into the bullpen is he only will go in with a clean sheet, won't go in with anybody else's runners on the plate or on the bases. So I don't know if he'll change that for the postseason, but you do have some other guys that you're going to need to use. You're not going to be able to get away with just your top four guys.
It's funny you bring up Brad Hand because I remember specifically in our preseason prediction show, I wanted Brad Hand to be the full-time closer. A lot of people forget that Brad Hand was an all-star closer who closed 50 some odd games over the course of 2 years in Cleveland. And he has the ability to be shut down in the ninth, and he gets overlooked often just with his good numbers with the Phillies this year. I mean, we're talking a guy with a sub 2.5 ERA. He gets himself into jams sometimes, but he gets himself out of them. And that's really what the big thing you're looking for out of the relievers is can you get out of big jams when necessary, no matter how you got into them. And he can do that job. That's another wily vet that's been around a while. So I like the idea that Hand can close, and, you know, it'll give Alvarado a little bit of a break against those lefties too.
Yeah, again, even if it's not closing, I mean, he's got a 2.8 ERA this year, and he's been in 55 games. It's not like he's got a 2.8 with 12 games. He's been in a number of games, and he's got 5 saves on the season, so it's not many. I'm trying to see how many opportunities he's had. It can't be much more than that. But I think he's a undervalued guy in this bullpen that obviously we haven't seen a whole lot of him recently with him being on the IL for a while. But with Knable being shut down for the year, he's going to kind of fill into that role where you can rely on him in a high leverage situation where before you're worried, man, we throw in Bilotti here? Do we throw in Nick Nelson here? You don't know where you're going to go. But with Hand healthy, I feel like you got to go him early if you run into any trouble because he does have that experience, like you said.
And and to touch on your Ranger Suarez point, I loved Ranger, you know, up until September hit, and then he kind of fell off, which was expected for a guy who's never actually been a full-time starter for a full season. He has been in and out of injuries, so the laboring through the season. To me, there is only one person that needs to start a game 3 right now, and it's Bailey Falter, because he was easily the Phillies' best starter over his last 6 starts. And if you look at the teams like the Mariners, or if you look at the whole landscape of the playoffs, it's not what you did before September. It's how hot you are going in. And Bailey Falter, as an individual, is a very good. He's pitching very well right now. To me, he has to be a game 3 starter. I would trust him more than a Gibson, a Suarez, anybody else right now outside of obviously Wheeler and Nola.
No, certainly. I ate a lot of crow on him over this past month and a half because I had the Sunday ticket package and it seemed like it always fell on a falter start. And I was like, oh, geez, like I get to go to these games and watch this guy give up 5 runs. And then even at the games I went to, he'd only give up 3 or something, but I always still had something bad to say about him. And then, man, he shut me and a lot of people up in a big way. Uh, do you think that do you think that Tuesday is enough time to get Wheeler back up there for game one? I feel like you have to try to get Wheeler up there. And if not, would you be saying that it would be Falter over Suarez? Obviously, if you're saying he's your game three starter, but I don't know if 3 days rest is enough for Wheels to be ready. And it's obviously not enough for Nola, 2 days. But who do you think is going to be starting on Tuesday?
Um, on 3 days rest, look, here's the reality of the situation. Zach Wheeler is going to gross 9 figures worth of money by the time his first contract with the Phillies is up. You paid this guy for a reason. 3 days rest, 4 days rest. I wouldn't be shocked if the Phillies ran out a 3-man rotation in the playoffs, to be honest with you. You have to get Wheeler and Nola to start every game. When you don't have the 4 aces like you did 10 years ago, you have to get Wheeler and Nola every start that you can get them. And Wheeler going on the IL when he did may have very well actually helped him because it saved him from pitching innings in September that he can now pitch in October.
No, certainly. I know a lot of people were saying that as well. As long as he came back and it wasn't like he had to get back into conditioning shape or get stretched out or anything like that, that it would really benefit him. You saw it last year. They really overworked him, and that's why he was a late kind of add on to the season. Barely made the fifth start to start the season because they didn't know if he was going to be 100% after having some nagging injuries from having what like 240 innings last year, something like that. So a nice break towards the end of the season might have been just perfect for him. And obviously he found his good stuff because he was pitching. We talk about how good Nola was. Wheeler was just as good. I mean, he really was. He was just as good.
Yeah, and so 3 days rest. Honestly, 3 days rest, Wheeler and Nola for sure. They both got to go on 3 days rest. And part of me believes that's almost why Nola was pulled when he was. I think Rob Thompson probably has these guys on a strict 100 pitch count, no more than that limit, because I think that there is some sort of long-term idea that these guys are going to go on 3 days rest consistently. And I think in the long term that's smart. If that is the case, if that's not the case, then you need to let these guys go after it when they're looking good. I think Wheeler and Nola both were pulled a little early. If that is not the case, that they are going to go, in fact, on 3 days rest.
No, I think that's a great point. If they knew they weren't going to be starting them, even if they swept the series on Tuesday, then why pull them when they're pitching so well? I mean, Nola he didn't even face adversity tonight. He got the guy, or no, he gave up the one hit. But I said it. I tweeted right before that batter. You were mentioning the same thing. His velocity and his spin rate were identical all game long. He was still throwing 95 and a half mile per hour fastballs there in the seventh inning and his spin rate, he still had all the movement on all of his pitches. So hopefully they did pull him just because they wanted to make sure that they didn't go too hard on him, so that he would be able to start on Wednesday. Do they give day rest in between any games in the divisional series, or should it be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the first 3 games?
It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, hey, like I said, I'm gonna be there Friday. Already got my tickets. Bought them like 2 weeks ago. On the last week of September, I had access to get them, so I grabbed a 4-pack. So Sean and I are going out to the game.
I live 2.5 hours from Atlanta, and you have no idea how tempted I am to pack up the car and go watch Wheeler deal on these guys.
I mean, some would say you're not a Phillies fan if you don't.
Yeah. Well, looks like I'm packing up, guys. But yeah, no, it was a great all around game. These are the types of games, every pitch is going to be high stress. We look at the ninth inning, 2 runners on, 2 guys out. In the regular season, it's a little whatever. Every pitch means so much more, particularly to this franchise that hasn't been to the playoffs in over a decade. We're going to scrutinize and critique every little pitch that gets thrown. And truthfully, they shouldn't have been in that situation in the eighth inning where two strike three calls were missed. That was egregious, but the umpiring in the series was embarrassing anyway, so that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
No, exactly. Like they were close. They were close pitches, but they were both strikes. And especially when this ump had called a number of pitches that were not even close strikes, that in that situation you tighten up your zone then. Like it was the whole officiating. I'm looking forward to the umpire audit at umpire auditing on Twitter, giving a report on this performance, because it's got to be at least a run and a half favor for the Cardinals with some of these calls. But it ended up not even mattering. They got the win 2-0. We kind of joked, would have been fun seeing them win 1-0. That would have been fitting with the way that they were eliminated 11 years ago. But they got the win 2-0. They're headed to Atlanta. Already touched on it. They're pretty 50-50 with Atlanta this year. Atlanta's obviously the better team, but baseball, especially playoff baseball, will show you it's whoever's hot. You saw the Nationals
look at the
win World Series.
Braves last year.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. They got hot at the perfect time, and they end up win the World Series. So it's really just whoever's hot. And right now, you can't say the Phils aren't hot.
Absolutely, and I think the pitch of the game, and you and I both brought this up. You've got the almost surefire NL MVP and Paul Goldschmidt standing at the plate, and Aaron Nola shot 94 miles an hour straight down the pipe, and Goldschmidt looked like he had never even seen a fastball before in his life.
It was incredible.
And when a pitcher is on, the way that ran back into Goldschmidt, he missed it completely, and that shows you everything you need to know. The ball was hidden well. It was deceptive, and Goldschmidt wasn't even close. So that, to me, like, you look at stuff like that, and it's like, if Aaron Nola's on a bad day, that ball gets crushed, and if he's on, they totally missed it. That was a fantastic outing by Aaron Nola.
No, it really was. It really was. In that pitch, we both commented on it, like on our Twitters, pretty much at the same time. He saw a fastball just right down the chute, and he was sitting fastball, and just, yeah, like you said it perfect. Like he had never seen a pitch before, just completely whiffed it. If you looked at him and Arenado's combined stats, they were 1 for 15 this series. And look, he's pretty much definitely going to win the MVP. But with us being Eagles fans, we'll talk all the crap we want about the Cowboys. Regular season stats don't mean shit once you get to the postseason. It doesn't mean anything. No one cares about them. You get to the postseason, nobody cares.
Have fun with your consolation prize there, Paul, as much as you deserve it. Doesn't mean anything to me. I'm going to enjoy, the Phillies playing the Braves and then playing the Dodgers after that.
No, exactly. They play what, 19 games against divisional opponents?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like the Phillies won.
They went 8-11 against the Braves.
They went 8-11 this season against the Braves. So
none of those games gave me, the vibe that the Phillies can't hang with the Braves. The Phillies can hang with the Braves.
No, they can most certainly hang with the Braves. And I'm looking at it. It looks like 3 of the 8 were in Atlanta. And so you find the right time, you can easily steal a game here. You really can. And do we know Spencer Strider's going to be activated for the series?
He should be. And that's going to allude to my next point, is baseball is a game of momentum. What have you done going in the past? So yes, the Phillies probably handed it to the Cardinals because it's been probably 3 weeks since they've played a serious game. They clinched the division, in my opinion, too early and coasted into the postseason. The Braves have been playing meaningful games trying to catch the Mets, and now all of a sudden they got to stop playing baseball for 4 days. That is huge because those guys are not seeing live pitching. They're not getting live swings. That is the Phillies keep grinding here. Every game is an elimination game, and the Braves have to stop for 4 days. That is going to make a massive impact here.
No, exactly. My dad and I were talking about just yesterday. Even if it's just a handful of days, that's all it takes to allow one team to get hot and one team to just lose their mojo. And they roared back to take the NL East, and then they've just been coasting, like you said. So that's plenty of time for them to just fall out of rhythm, and we can hop right in and steal a game. And then you bring it to Philadelphia and you have a sold out Citizens Bank waving the towels. Good luck. I don't care who's pitching game 3. Good luck. It's going to
I
be an
remember
extremely hostile environment.
To me, that's enough time. Wheeler's going to start game 1, and the Braves are, still a little rusty from their 4 or 5 days off. That's just enough time. That's all you need is to steal that one game in Atlanta.
That's all you need. That's all you
and
need.
let's not forget that Nola has a sub-2 ERA on the road this year, so he'll be pitching game 2 in Atlanta, where he historically pitches very well against the Braves.
Oh, you have to love it. You gotta love the way it's shaping up, the Nola away ERA, the team being hot at the right time, them getting a couple of days off just to get back to Philly, get hype with their family and friends, build that momentum right back up. I feel like the speech in the locker room is going to be very similar to what we hear Jalen Hurts say after games. Hey, a win in this league is always great, but we haven't even touched our potential yet. And just really emphasizing we need to do better. I don't care that obviously you care that you win. That's great, but we need to do better. You're not going to be able to win with our 2 through 4 hitters. Obviously Harper hit that moonshot in his first at bat, but you're not going to be able to win with your pretty much your 1 through 5 hitters doing next to nothing. And they really are. And let me touch on this one last time before I can see if somebody else wants to hop on the line. Rhys Hoskins, if when they're in Atlanta, he is still in the 2 hole, they're not taking this game seriously. If that's the case, that's my opinion.
Now, Schwarber, JT, Harper, Bohm needs to be the top 4 in Atlanta, and that needs to be solidified, like written in pen every single day. Lefty, righty, switch thrower. I don't care who's pitching that day for the Braves.
Yeah, right now Hoskins needs to be an 8 or 9 hitter, like that far down. I have him in the 8 or 9 hole. And like you said, you just mix it up to whatever lefty, righty, you want to switch it up every time. However the pattern works, have him at either 8 or 9. I don't even want him at 7.
And the Cardinals might have done us the biggest favor they can do, because Harper, up until this game, was a complete liability. He was an easy out, ever since he'd come off the IL. Yep. And it's understandable, but at the same time, when a guy is struggling as bad as Harper and you don't attack him, and you throw him a first pitch curveball, all you're doing is speeding up his bat.
Yep.
And that was a curveball, as I talked about earlier, that was always in the zone. It started at the letters and finished in the mid-thigh area. It was never not a strike. It wasn't deceptive. And look at that. He started swinging with so much more confidence than all the other at-bats after that. The single that should have been turned into a double, that's stuff that Harper's doing if he's confident. When he's doing stuff like that, the clubhouse feeds off of that. The players feed off that. Everybody gets hype off of stuff like that. He's the soul. He's the leader. And the Cardinals might have poked a sleeping bear. So I'm so happy they did that.
No, as Jack Fritz always said, who let the Phillies get hot? And right now, the Cardinals let the Phillies get hot, or at least they let Harper get hot. But Ryan, I know, thank you so much for hopping on. Everybody that doesn't know Ryan, he is the one of the hosts of our parent station of our network. I don't know how you'd word that. He is the host of BSing Sports, and they're doing a show tomorrow breaking down a lot of this. So you might hear some of these takes echoed. I was happy to be able to get him on before he goes and uses all of those and more takes tomorrow. But definitely check him, check Tim and Bill out over at BSing Sports. You'll see their stuff shared on our Twitter, on our social media bunch, and you can just check them out for yourself. Definitely want to follow them. You can go to bsingsports.com as well to stay up to date with all their newest content, as well as have links to all their social medias. Ryan, any final thoughts?
Appreciate it, Jake.
Oh, yeah.
Go Phils, man. I know the Eagles play tomorrow, but man, this is really, the Phillies are going to start to take over this city here in a little bit. So I'm calling a 3-1 series win versus Atlanta. I'll break that down a little bit tomorrow for what I expect for that. But don't sleep on the Phillies.
Don't sleep on the Phils. I love it. 3-1 series win, heading to the NLCS, says Ryan at BSing Sports. Well, thank you for calling in, man. Definitely check. Oh yeah, definitely check him and the rest of the team over at BSing Sports out. They do a great job. So line is open. line is open. You have the number there. Call in. Give us your take. Tell me just what you were doing watching the game. Did you not want to leave from your seat? I know I hopped up only once to take a piss, and I was not moving anywhere other than that. Thankfully, was able to get my dog plenty of exercise earlier, so she wasn't going too crazy. She was just laying down watching the game with me. But what were you doing? What were some of the thoughts that you had? Were you as appalled at the umpiring as I was? Because if you get umpiring like that in the NLDS, you're not going to be able to always come out on top. You're not going to be able to always have your pitchers throwing 5 strikes and finally getting the third one as a swing and a miss. You're going to get some of these games that it will result in runs that possibly result in a loss. So call in 302-540-4492. Let's talk about it. Give me your take. Give me your thoughts. Give me your feelings. Go Phillies. That's all I'm saying. Phillies fever here in Philadelphia. Man, I am just shaking with how excited I am to be in a sold out Citizens Bank Park, get my rally towel going. I'm not going to sit down the whole game. If you get a picture of me sitting down at that game, I don't know what I'll give you. I'll give you something because I'm going to do whatever I can to be standing that entire game. It's too cold to sit down, man. Stand up, get the blood moving. But we were talking about that. Who do you think that we will see in that game 3 start? You have to imagine Wheeler and Nola are going game 1 and 2. Who do you want to see in that game 3 start? Go ahead, call in 302-540-4492. Get in on the line, talk some Phils. I'm kind of with Ryan. I would really like to see Bailey falter there. He's earned that in his last 6 starts or last 7 starts. He's 6-1 with a sub-3 ERA. He's given up 2 or less runs, and I believe 6 of those 7 starts. He's really pitching well. And Ranger Suarez, he's gotten hit around a little bit. He's kind of sandwiching some good starts in between some bad ones in between some good ones. And he doesn't go very deep. That's something with Ranger. He just usually gets you a good 5 or 6 innings. You occasionally see him go 7, but he really doesn't get very deep. Yeah, Ken saying post game live is saying Ranger starts on Tuesday. That would be very interesting. Get Ranger starts on Tuesday, and then you would have to imagine it'd be Wheeler on Wednesday and Nola on Friday. I mean, look, selfishly, I would love to see postseason Nola live and in action. That would be great, but that would be very interesting. Ranger starting on Tuesday. It makes a little bit of sense to not have him wait too long in between starts because that's never a great idea, especially with command. If you have too long of a break in between starts, so that's interesting. I, I hope he goes out there and pitches well. I hope the Phillies just dominate. I want to see him jump on him early. But is there any changes you'd make in the lineup? I very vocally said you need to get Reese out of there. I said he needs to be an 8 or a 9-hole hitter. He can't be in the 2-hole. You are not taking this playoff baseball seriously. You're not taking winning seriously if you keep Reese in the 2-hole. Got to move him down as far as 8 or 9. I can understand if you say 6 or 7. Right now, he needs to be 8 or 9. He has had 9 at-bats in his postseason career with zero productivity out of him. I think the best at bat he saw 6, maybe 7 pitches, and that's the most production he got out of him, just raising that opposing pitcher's pitch count a little bit. But he has done absolutely nothing. Can't find the barrel of the bat to save his life, and he's had a lot of opportunities to make a splash. It's not like he's getting up there with nothing going on. He's had opportunities to score some runs to make a big impact in the series, and he's just not doing it. You see the number 302-540-4492. Call in. Give us your thoughts on the game, on the Phils. Hell, if you want to talk a little bit Cardinals in the Arizona variety, you might even tempt me into talking a little bit of Eagles. But I'm really just looking to keep the Phillies fever going, talk some Phils. Ranger Suarez, as being reported by Ken, hearing it off of Postgame Live, is going to be your Tuesday starter. And talking with Ryan, it sounds like their rookie sensation, Spencer Strider, is going to be brought off of the IL of that fire breather, flamethrower over there in Atlanta. We have not hit him well. I'd be curious if he's their game 1 starter or where they're going to throw him in. I would imagine they're going to try and pick. I mean, they're going to put their best against Ranger. They're going to try and just beat up Ranger a little bit and rely on us not being able to get many runs on him. And if they want to do that really effectively, I think Strider, we have the least runs off of him than any other Brave starter. So might see Strider pitching on Tuesday. It's going to be tough. We're going to need Rangers best. We're going to need it, and I touched on it with Ryan earlier. He doesn't go very deep. You're going to see more than just the four guys you saw this series. You're not just going to see Sir Anthony. You're not just going to see Robertson, Eflin, Alvarado. You're going to have to possibly even use a stretch guy. You might even have to get Syndergaard warmed up and see what he does in the bullpen. I'd be curious how many times he has made appearances in the major league level from the bullpen. If anybody wants to look that up for me, that would be great. Would love to know what history he has in the bullpen. But maybe as Ken said, if Falter is not going to be a starter, if you're just doing a 3-man rotation, you might even have Falter coming out of the bullpen. You might throw Falter in there for a stretch guy. That I wouldn't be necessarily opposed. I know there's always a difference coming in from the bullpen as opposed to not. I would also be curious. There was a lot of rumors circling that if they didn't win today and they had to go to Game 3 tomorrow in this series, that they were going to deploy an opener for that series. I'll be curious if they do the same for Tuesday's game. If Ranger's going to be your starter, do you have an opener? Do you have a Falter go an inning or two and then bring Ranger in and hope that he can give you that 5 or 6 and then boom, you're already in the 8th inning? I'd be really curious to see there. And if they do, who would you like for them to use in that inning? 302-540-4492. Call in. Let me know your takes. Phone lines, we got some viewers there. I see you up in the corner. We got some viewers. There's no reason not to call. It's a good friendly show. You know, anybody that's been on here knows that I like to keep it light, like to keep it breezy, like to get you involved. Love to hear your takes. But if they were going to go an opener for Tuesday's game, my ideal candidate would probably be Brad Hand. We talked about him earlier with Ryan. He's got the experience. He's a veteran in this league, but he's been a little bit injured. He's been a little bit banged up. Get him in there. Get him in there early and see what he can do. Get him in there early, and hopefully he can just give you two scoreless innings, or even just get him one and then bring Ranger in. If you're worried about him not being really stretched out, even though he's a bullpen guy, he never really needs to be stretched out. They're usually just going in there for an inning. But yeah, I would go Brad Hand as my opener on Tuesday if they do want to deploy that tactic, and then bring Ranger in for the second, see if he can get you all the way into the 7th or 8th. And then if you're at that point, you just go right with your normal rotation. Alvarado as your setup guy, or you may need to even bring him in as your closer with Eflin, just making things a little dicey the past 2 nights. So I wouldn't be too opposed to having Alvarado come in there, but I know it's so situational. If you have a couple lefties coming up, you want to bring Alvarado in with that nasty turbo sinker with a ton of tail on it. He has that cutter that A-Rod, like a moron, was saying that that's his go-to pitch. No, when you have a 103 mile per hour turbo sinker, you're really going to say that his 94 mile per hour cutter, it does have good movement, but that's not his go-to pitch. His go-to pitch is that turbo sinker. I don't understand why whenever it was on NCS Philly, the games, and it would come up with the pitch speed and what pitch it would say a sinker. But on ESPN, the past 2 games, whenever he was pitching and it was his high velocity pitch, it kept calling it a two-seamer. Does anybody have any reason to believe that obviously he's not switching pitches this late in the year, but why would it be listing it as a two-seamer on ESPN and ABC and listing it as a sinker when he was pitching through the local broadcast? It's a little strange, but yeah, this was Harper's first series win in the playoffs. Let's build off of that. Tim, I love it. You have to. You got to build off of it. They let him get hot at the wrong time. And the Braves, as Ryan said, have cooled off for too long. They had a great run to get that bye in the first round, but this isn't football. This isn't where you're really needing, oh, let's rest up and get healthy. Baseball is such a momentum sport. And for them to have this time off might not bode well for them. They're watching the Phillies, and I'm sure they're saying, man, they're not scoring a ton of runs. We get a couple runs on them early and don't rely on a terrible 9th inning by St. Louis in the 9th yesterday. We'll be able to win if we score 3 runs. Harper in the leadoff or Stott. If I had to pick between either one of them, I like Stott in the leadoff position, especially if Harper is finding his groove back. I want as many people, or the potential for as many people on base as possible. But Stott, in the brief stint he had as leadoff pit, he did very well. And even in this game, he wasn't too effective this game. He was a little bit better yesterday, even though he only worked 2 walks, didn't have any hits. But even when he did get out, he was working long at bats and that's crucial early in a game. You have your first batter, takes you 9, 7, 8, 9 pitches to get through that first batter in the first inning of the first game of the series, gets in the pitcher's head. It's such a mental game as well as a momentum game, and you get a guy that works a long count, even if you get him out, that really rattles you a little bit. And then you have another guy. Our early batters are typically pretty solid at working counts. Not as of lately, but they're pretty solid overall. And I would like to see Stott given that opportunity. I think there is a 0% chance that they're going to switch up the lineup, at least the leadoff part of the lineup. I think that's Schwarber's spot. He's come out and said that he likes being the leadoff hitter. But that's the thing. What was it? The leadoff hitter. And he is not hitting right now. Nobody in the top 5 other than Harper is really hitting right now. Real Muto, he's doing all right. He's not doing great. He's not doing terrible. Obviously, can't be mad at him for setting up that rally that got us game 1, which inevitably got us the series with the win tonight. Nobody's pitching too well. Got a comment. Can you believe Sir Anthony Dominguez? Can I believe what? Can I believe that he's a pitcher? Yes. No, there's Sir Anthony is definitely gave me a lot of confidence in him. I was a little worried, like everybody was, watching him pitch towards the later part of the season, but he came in and minus a little bit of command issues, he pitched very strong. He pitched very well. So I certainly have faith in him to at least be a setup man. I know a number of people, and I know Ryan said that he doesn't really fully trust him to be the closer again, but he's certainly, like you're saying, he's got his mojo back. He looked confident out there. He looked really like I'm trying to think of the right adjective for it. He looked good. He looked good. Velocity is right where you want it to be. Command, it comes back with more time, so give him a few more appearances. Just get him working out in the bullpen during these next 2 days off. I think he's certainly a guy that you can trust, and maybe he's a guy you look towards as your opener for Tuesday's game if they are to deploy that tactic. That was just a rumor that I heard being circulated around locally, where if they didn't win tonight and had to go to a game 3, that they might deploy an opener before they go to Ranger. But who knows? If Sir Anthony is certainly a great option. I know I said Brad Hand, just let him get 1 inning and get him out there, but who knows? Maybe you bring in Sir Anthony, start the game because you know that you can trust him to get the game off going. He can get the first 3 hitters off the board. Then you don't have to worry about the meat of their lineup until hopefully at least the 4th inning. But yeah, first playoff series win since 2010, and isn't it so fitting that it was against the team that eliminated them last in the playoffs? We were joking; it'd been funny if tonight's game ended 1-0. It would have been fitting for that being the way that they got eliminated last year. But you see number 302-540-4492. We're going to be wrapping it up in a little bit, unless the phone line starts blowing up. I'll stay up and talk to anybody, talk some Phillies with you. So you see the number 302-540-4492. Call in, give me your thoughts on the series, give me your thoughts on the Phils, where you were watching it, what you were doing while you were watching it, your reaction to that. Like you said, the first playoff series win since 2010. Man, it is a good feeling. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing like the rest of the city of Philadelphia. And like I said in our last episode that wasn't live, I said as my final thought, Philadelphia, not the Phillies, not the Eagles, Philadelphia is getting 3 wins against the Cardinals this weekend. So the Phillies did their part. The Eagles are going to do their part tomorrow. I'm predicting a very large deficit in tomorrow's game. I don't think Arizona is going to be able to be very effective against us at all. And look, I'm sure the Eagles are going to kind of play off of this. People aren't talking about that at all. Like most of the Eagles players love their friends over on the Phillies, and they're just as happy to see the energy that it brought the whole town. And they're like, you know what? Let's just build off of this. We're seeing this team, the baseball team in our area just gets the whole city erupting. Let's add to it. Let's not bring them down. Let's just keep building them up. This city is about to just be so ridiculously, unbearably obnoxious. You got the Phillies heading to the NLDS. You got the Eagles about to be 5-0. The Union are leading their league. Yeah, we talk a little MLS here, not a whole lot, but I like the Union playing a hell of a game. We got the Sixers looking incredible. I was at the Sixers Cavaliers preseason game at the Wells Fargo Center. Man, does Maxey look good. I get that it's preseason. Players aren't doing everything, like they aren't playing necessarily their hardest. They're trying a few different things out. But all I know is a shot's a shot, and his shot looked incredible. I have a couple of videos that on our social media, so definitely check that out. But yeah, if nobody calls 302-540-4492. If you have any thoughts, if we don't get a call here in a minute, we'll probably wrap it up here. So I know it's late for a lot of people. I really appreciate everybody tuning in that has tuned in so far. But man, Phillies sweep the Cardinals in St. Louis. Talking 2-5 is going to the game on Friday, hoping that they announce the time of that game and it's not another 227 game or 207 game. That was such a stupid time. If it is, you know what? I'm gonna have to call out of work. It's just what's gonna have to happen. I'm gonna have to call out of work if that's the case. But hey, go Phils, go Birds, go Philadelphia.